What's going on, Average Joes? Today, I have my next episode in the top three from me series, and today we are talking about worlds. So I think one big aspect that makes fantasy so appealing is because so much of fantasy, it's there. These authors are making their own worlds, and with most books, it's the world we know, whether it's past or present or future. But from fantasy, it's authors creating an entire world from scratch, whether it's a new planet, a new system, a all the different cultures, technologies, um, the magic, the world, just everything from the bottom up. Authors get their own say in how the world works. And that's what I want to talk about today, and some of the coolest worlds and my recommendations, my top three from me recommendations on series or books that will transport you to another world. And it's in a sense, it's one of the best parts of these books. I'm not saying it is the best part. Obviously, I'm mentioning them because of other reasons, but the worlds is what I really wanted to highlight in these three. So a lot of people read for escapism. These are books that would be great for escapism. And there's some where you just, you're in the mood for some magic, or you're in the mood for some mystery, or the worlds, or something of that nature, characters. So talking about worlds, first one I'm going to talk about, it was the very first one I put on this list because it was the most obvious choice, and that is the Send and Ascend books. So Books of Babel is the series, but I'm just going to refer to them as the Senlin books because Books of Babel are also some other things that might get confusing. So the Senlin books, the 4-book series, and the first book, the main character Tom Senlin is on his honeymoon, and he's taking his wife to see this tower. In the world that they live in, there is this giant tower that was erected, and the width of it are entire cities. It is entire cities wide, and it goes as far as the eye can see up into the clouds. Nobody really knows how tall the tower is, how many floors it is, but there's books on it. And Tom is a professor, and he's read all these books on the tower. He's always wanted to go to the tower, and it's sort of a pilgrimage that he's doing, and a lot of people else do. So he's read this Every Man's Guide to the Tower. So he thinks he knows everything about it. So he goes there, and on day one, before they even get to the tower, his wife is taken from him, and then he spends the rest of his time trying to find his wife, as he believes she's been taken to the tower and up. So he has to go to the tower and find his way up to find her. And like I said, each level is its own city. Each level has its own socioeconomic structure, its own political structure, everything. And the best thing I liked about Senlin is that, to me, the tower was the number one character. It was the best character in the entire book. Some people really liked Tom, really liked him as a character, and some other people they loved. A lot of the characters, like Tom, was just kind of like mediocre to me. He was okay. There were times where I really liked him. Other times he was just like frustrating and just like, okay, whatever. And a couple of the characters kind of went along that same line. So some of the main ones, I was like, yeah, okay, I feel decent about them. One or two of the other side characters I really, really liked. But I think the tower was the main character to me. It played the biggest role. It influenced everything that they did. It was the world. It's one thing for you to be walking around Middle Earth or doing something in a world, but the tower influenced and drove every single thing that happened. And as they go up the ladder and learning more about the worlds and how each of them change was very, very fulfilling, very fun, very entertaining. And I found myself, even when I didn't care as much about the characters, or like they were just kind of in a plot point that if it was great, or even if it was like kind of slow to me, I still wanted to know more about the tower. The tower kept me going because every layer, every new development in learning about the tower and fulfilling the plot that develops later on, the tower just enhances the whole thing. You're always kept in an air of mystery, and even from the end, how the 4 books end, there is still a lot of questions and some mystery behind like what the heck is going on. The overall ending was, I think, could be hit or miss for a lot of people. It could be very divisive, and I mean, I would be down to debate and talk to people about how the ending was, because I know I have some feelings about it that might contradict others, and it left questions, and your thoughts and opinions toward characters could have shifted because of the ending. But anyway, the world, it is the tower. It is just so good. Always wanting to explore and find more, and every single layer that you hear about, some of them some of the levels you just get a passing mention to. Other ones that are actually in there for a while. You could honestly um, there could be more fan fiction just on the tower and other levels of the tower, and it could go on for a while, which I think is one of the best things about some of these series with great worlds is that like it could inspire fan fiction because of how robust and as much stuff as the world has to it. So that was Settled in a Sense. And yeah, he's trying to find his wife, and that's kind of how the order is. That each book is, they're not too long. They get pretty long toward the end, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile series to pick up. Why it's so good is because a lot of times with fantasy, or where fantasy, there usually have magic is influenced a lot of things. Well, in this world, there is no magic. It's all about technology, but there's different types of technology. There's some older technology. There's some newer technologies. There's yeah, just each level of technology and how it changes, how it influences, and it's almost some of the crazy technology that there is. It's almost borderline magic because it's not really fully explained. You're just kind of like, yeah, this does this, and then it's just, and then that's just what it is. But it's still very, very cool of how the technology is influenced throughout the world and how it changes how certain parts of the world are run. The next series is one that I'm still in the process of reading, and I have liked it a lot. There are 10 books in this series. This is the Shadow of the App series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'm first four books. I'm through the first four books, which I guess is the first like narrative arc, and they kind of get longer after that. But the reason why I want to talk about this world is because it is a very large world. You know, just like a lot of fantasy worlds, they're just very large. You know, you have 10 books to explore it. But even from the first couple of books, you're opened up to a huge part of the world. And what's really cool about this world is because there is a powers and balance between magic and technology and different sort of socioeconomic and race cultures that are throughout, because the world is comprised of human insects in a way. So every different race of person, so they're basically human. Every different race though is derived from a different insect. So you have the wasp people, the different kinds of ant people, the beetles, the mantis. There's even some other ones, secret ones that you discover later on, flies, and the magic comes from their ancestor art. The art is what they call magic, and the ancestor art reflects something of like how insects really are. So the wasps have a sting. Their sting is like a fireball. The flies can fly, and they're always like aware, and they have like a sixth sense to danger. So whenever they sense danger coming, they know to get out of the way. The ants communicate telepathically, all of these things. So the ancestor art is tied with them. But then there's also the races like the ants also have this, but the beetles, who they're just like hard to kill, but they are artificers. They are inventors. They can manipulate technology, and there are certain races like the mantis who can't work technology. They just can't comprehend it, can't work it. I know there's a certain point where somebody locks their door through, it's just like a very simple technological lock, almost like a sophisticated doorknob, but a mantis can't get through it because it's technology. They can't understand it, they can't comprehend it. So they don't have the apt for technology. And that's what makes it interesting, because there's a balance between the magic, between the technology. There's some technology taking over. There's magic that's trying to battle back. There's magic and technology working together. Like some people that can use it, some people that can't, they're on the same side. And then there's like ancient magic. But like, what's also weird is that the world doesn't believe in magic. Ancestor art is just that, it's ancestor art. But then there's deeper ancient magic. So it's almost like three different forces, even though we would typically consider the art magic. It's not magic because there's actual magic beyond that that's more powerful. So that's why it's so crazy, because you have these three elements, these three different types of power, and how it's balancing out the world. But then you have within that the different cultures and societies that how they are run. You know, the wasps are very authoritarian, dominating. The ants are a monarch with, you know, they always follow their queen. The bees are like that as well. They can communicate telepathically, the ants. And then the beetles and other ones, they kind of come together for a more of an industrial society that we might know. and how all of these things coincide. And like you have the Spider Kingdom, who are all about manipulation and political maneuverings, and you pretty much have everything. And at times it's about too much. There's almost too much of a scale. There's a couple of books where I'm just like, there's so much going on here. You're spread out really far, but the world is just so big, and it just makes you want to read more. So like, even though there's so much to it, and you're given a lot, and sometimes some of the books are high paced, the other ones kind of are building. There's just so much to go through in this world, and there's a whole bunch of fan fiction, or not, I didn't say fan fiction, but there's small books and like novellas and short stories that are written outside, like by other authors in this world, which is really, really cool. Like John Gwynn apparently wrote a short story or a novella about this, and that just makes me really jazzed to get to it. I don't even know where it falls on the timeline continuum. So yeah, Shadow of the Apt World is so cool, so fun. It's so original. There's so much, just so much to digest with it. And every time you go and you discover a new insect, it's like so exciting. And you hear rumors about an insect, and you're like, oh my god, what can they do? I wonder what these things can do. And then technology is also trying to keep up with everything as well. They're trying to invent new things, and you're there through a couple of invention breakthroughs. So a lot goes on in it. There's just, the world is just, it's so big, so vast, so awesome. And the last thing I'm going to mention is one that I've talked about a few times, and it is a middle grade. Middle grades are kind of known for, or need to be, have great worlds and atmospheric, because a lot of times kids read to escape, for escapism, to keep their attention. That is the Keepers of the Lost Cities books. And while it is middle grade, and I do have my issues with it, the main thing being like the very immature characters, but they're the middle grade. The world is really awesome. So you have the classic elves, ogres, trolls, dwarves, all of those things, and it's like an underground secret society filled with magic. But it's a very glamorous world. They want for nothing. You only work to have, like, nobody really needs to work. The whole society is self-providing. You have some upper and middle class, but there's still, class is kind of determined by your magical abilities. And magic, there's all different kinds of types of magic. So while things like Harry Potter and others, you learn certain types of magic, this one is like, you are tested for certain abilities while you're early on in school. You are put through these like stress tests to see if you can manipulate certain types of magic. And if you can, then the rest of your schooling is catered toward whatever magic you have. And you don't get this magic till about adolescence or so. And most people only have one. There's some people with none. Most people have one. Rare. Some people have more than one, have two. It's very rare. And that's how it works. And as you go through the books, more magic is discovered. So like they start off with like the basic magic and what a lot of people have. And then as time goes on, more other different abilities and types of magic that are either much more rare or have been phased out have come in to play. And the main character, I forget her name, but she was living with humans for a long time. She didn't know she was an elf. Then she got brought in to be an elf because as she hit her adolescent years, she was hearing people's thoughts. She knew she could read minds, but she never knew why. And then the elves discovered her, and they brought her down. And apparently, she was whisked away there to the humans when she was young. So she's learning this entire elven society as you're learning it, and chaos ensues somewhat. You have the typical, so kind of the typical, it's the same like Harry Potter setup, to where he's getting into teenage years and learning about all this stuff, unsure of what he can do, that all these things happened, and just blown away by it. And then because he kind of has outside the box thinking, and almost like then basically kind of like a chosen one trope as well, she's the one that has going through and discovering all this stuff and getting her friends into all kinds of trouble and danger, and it escalates as they go on. So the world, there's a lot to it. You're constantly discovering new parts of the world and new parts of the magic. The depth keeps on going and going, which I think is awesome, that the world can just keep on growing. I think as far as world depth, it probably has more than Harry Potter, because Harry Potter is like you only get a couple of locations and then little glimpses here and there. But this one, it's building more and more, and goes a bit deeper. So the world is awesome to check out. It's very fun to explore. Everything's very shiny and nice in this elven world. Everything is like, all their food is like very sweet, and just very sweet. Almost everything's like a dessert. So that is my top 3 from me list on the greatest world, some of the best worlds. And I know there are greater worlds out there. And I am interested to know what some of the worlds are you like you like really really like, and what would be great for this video. What would your top 3 worlds be? And I might have left a couple off just because I have more videos planned and I don't want to keep mentioning the same books over and over. But these 3, the worlds, are the main thing that sticks out. And if I were to tell anybody about these series, one of the first things I would talk about is the world and how big and vast and awesome the world is to explore. So that's why I brought these 3 up for my top 3 from me. But what are some of the greatest worlds that you like to read from, that you like to immerse yourself in, that were just some of the best parts to explore? Let me know down in the comments and we'll chat more there.